I get it when you're standing on a half-finished deck and you realize you need a perfectly straight line for the next set of joists. You don't want to waste a day guessing or, worse, buying a laser that ends up being more hassle than help. You've probably already scrolled through a dozen options, watched a few quick unboxings, and now you're wondering if any of those pricey kits actually live up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's the spot I was in last month, trying to decide whether to splurge on a professional-grade laser or stick with the cheap handheld that I could borrow from a friend. The thing that finally tipped the scales for me was not just the price tag but the specific way the Topcon Class 1 2.4 mW laser HV2S handles the everyday messes of a job site. I spent a solid weekend testing it on a 3-story framing job, a backyard patio layout, and even a quick tile leveling task in my own kitchen. What I learned might save you a few headaches before you click add to cart. First off, the fact that this is a Class 1 laser is more than a safety badge. It means the beam is safe for direct eye exposure, which is a relief when you're the one constantly looking at the line while you're also juggling a hammer and a tape measure. In a busy crew environment, you don't have to keep reminding the apprentices to avoid looking straight at the beam, and you avoid the whole "did we break a safety rule" conversation. That alone makes it a good fit for anyone who's managing a small team or working alone and doesn't want to spend extra time on safety briefings. The self-leveling feature is where the HV2S starts to feel like a real workhorse. On the job site, you're dealing with uneven ground, sloped roofs, and sometimes just a wobbly tripod that you set up in a rush. The laser automatically corrects up to a few degrees of tilt, so you get a true level line without having to fine-tune the mount by hand. I tested it on a sloping concrete slab that was about 3 degrees off level. After setting it up, the laser settled into a perfect horizontal within seconds, and the line stayed steady for the whole time I was laying out the slab. For anyone who needs to set up a reference line quickly, like framing a wall, aligning a fence, or even grading a driveway, this auto-level saves you the back and forth of manual adjustments. One of the practical strengths that shows up in real use is the dual slope option. When you need both a horizontal and a vertical reference, you can switch between single slope, horizontal, and dual slope, horizontal plus vertical, without swapping out the head. On a 3-story framing job, I used the vertical line to keep the studs plumb across all floors. The beam stayed bright enough to be seen from the 2nd floor down, which is something you can't always count on with lower-powered lasers. If your projects involve both level and plumb references, think building a multi-level deck or installing a series of cabinets, this dual functionality reduces the number of tools you have to carry. The kit comes with a rechargeable NiMH battery, which is a bit of a double-edged sword. On the plus side, the battery holds enough charge for a full day of moderate use, and you can swap it out for a spare if you have one on hand. I found that after about 6 hours of continuous operation on a large site, the beam started to dim just enough that you'd notice it on a bright, sunny day. That's not a deal-breaker, but it does mean you'll want a backup battery if you're planning to run the laser from sunrise to sunset. The downside is that NiMH cells take longer to recharge compared to modern lithium-ion packs, so you need to plan a charging window, usually a night or a lunch break. If you're used to plugging in a power bank or swapping AA batteries, this might feel a bit slower. Ruggedness is another area where the Topcon earns its keep. The housing is lightweight enough to mount on a standard tripod without making the whole setup feel top-heavy, yet the casing feels solid enough to survive a few knocks that happen when tools get dropped in a busy work zone. I accidentally bumped it against a metal pipe while moving it across a cluttered job site. The laser kept humming, and the line didn't wobble a fraction. That durability is a practical advantage for anyone who moves the laser around a lot, like a landscaper mapping out a slope or a contractor who has to relocate the unit between interior and exterior jobs. Now, let's talk about who should really consider this kit and who might want to look elsewhere. If you're a DIY homeowner tackling medium-sized projects like leveling a patio, hanging a row of shelves, or installing a floating countertop, you'll likely find the Topcon more than sufficient. The safety classification, self-leveling, and dual slope give you professional-grade confidence without needing a